Hi there, this is Dan with Wandering DMs, and today I am at the Morgan Library in New York City, having just attended the J.R.R Tolkien art exhibit that's been here for a number of weeks. And with me to discuss that is Isabelle Garbani, a fine artist who does sculpting and mixed media and works with recycled materials, and has had exhibits around the world, including New York City and Taiwan and Tunisia and a bunch of other places. And her artwork is also featured in the Book of Spells from Original Edition Delta, which is available on Hulu.com, and also Mr. Paul Siegel's Deck of Spells, and a lot of other properties. So we are on the streets of New York City currently. And Isabelle, what did you think of the Tolkien art exhibit today?
So I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a really sweet exhibit. I think the artwork that he's done, the original watercolors that he did for The Hobbit, I think were delightful.
Right.
I think it's interesting to see sort of like the breadth of the artist's work and see some of the illustrations that he did for the books that he's famous for that we don't know really anything about. I think when I bought The Hobbit, the cover was not the original cover, so it was kind of nice to see that. I do have to say that, there are a lot of blockbuster exhibits in the museum, and, it's become, very popular to have, a very prominent figure shown in museums.
I will point out today it was very busy. It was so crowded. You almost couldn't move around at all.
Right.
So good for the library.
Good for the library,
Yeah.
but at the same time, I think that's my biggest complaint is that that attracts so many crowds that it really detracts from your enjoyment of seeing the exhibit. And I wish I would have had a little bit more elbow room, to see it. And we had to wait 3.5 hours to even get into the exhibit today. So
and we're shooting kind of late in the day because of that. So this is not our scheduled plan, but we did finally get in.
We did finally get in, yes.
Yeah, interesting. So would you say that? Where would you rank Tolkien's watercolor ink work? Could he have been a professional artist?
So, in my opinion, no.
Okay.
And it's really funny because before we went to see the show, I had read a review online on a blog that I read, on an art blog that I read on a regular basis, complaining about that, that he's, the art is nice, and if one of my students in my classes, had done that, I would have been delighted.
Right.
However, I will qualify them as sweet, and not necessarily, worthy of being shown in a gallery on their own, without if they were disassociated from the work that the author has done as a writer, which is where he really shines. I don't think that that would really stand up. They would really stand up on their own. However, I have to say that they had a lot of his doodles that he did on newspaper.
Yeah.
He was very well known for that, and those were really, really sweet, really delightful pieces of work.
And so those were they had a lot of extemporaneous doodles on newspapers he was reading, which could be as many as 12 per page in ink and pencil and things like that, and a lot of floral, maybe some grid work, maybe some stuff that sort of resembled Paisley type things a lot. But apparently he must have been doing it over and over and over and over again. Right. And they had a lot of those.
Right, and those were really nice.
Yeah.
He's got a really nice graphic quality to those. And again, I think the watercolors that he did for the original Hobbit were really nice. But I think that, while we were waiting to get into the library, Dan and I went to the Museum of Natural History to draw, and I gave him a free drawing lesson when we were there. And, one of the things that I encourage people to do, especially when they work with ink at the beginning, is to sort of be very loose. And I think that's one of the things that I think a lot of the drawings and a lot of the artwork that we saw miss a little bit. They're a little bit tight.
Okay.
So I think he was trying to work out ideas for his books and his stories and the mythology, around all of that. But they're a little bit tight, so you can see it's someone that is really self-taught as an artist, and sort of lacks the looseness that would have made him a little bit better as fine art.
Okay.
So, and I hope I don't disappoint or make a whole bunch of people out there hate me for saying that. It was a very sweet exhibit. So.
I mean, for me, one of the things that was interesting was how integral it was to his process for actually writing.
Yes.
So I personally didn't know that. And there are some of these works, there were illustrations that he made after the fact for like the 5 watercolors for the first American edition, which were interesting. But there are other works that he was making before the publication, before he was done writing it. So there were things of plateaus and mountain vistas and things like that that he was working out as part of his writing process in order to make sure that he had the geography right in his mind and consistent before he actually did the writing. So to me, it was kind of interesting to see this interplay of both writing and artwork in either order, as a matter of fact.
Yes.
And the other thing that it looked very familiar to me is it looked a heck of a lot like making D&D dungeons, actually.
Absolutely.
So there were a lot of maps. There was a lot of map work. A lot of like inch-wide grids being taped together and being scribbled on and rewritten and overwritten. And there's a couple like maps that are heavily creased and have like a pipe burn from him at some point. That and there's a quote, if I recall correctly, something like, I made the right decision to make the maps first so that the story was consistent.
Right.
And there's also a page of him working out, that's very familiar to me, working out the scales of specifically how do hobbits measure distance and how do their nails and toes compare to our feet, and one of their paces is 2 of our feet, and making sure that a hobbit never walks further in the story than he's computed in advance.
Yeah.
So very, very careful attention to scales, and some of his maps have extensive scale calculations all around the margin. So all of that looks very, very similar, actually, like shockingly similar to the design process a lot of us go through for either dungeon or wilderness design.
Right.
And the first thing really is an art product of the map, at least.
Right.
And then the writing and the names and the places all come as an after effect.
Right.
So that was kind of almost jarring for me to see how similar that was to standard dungeon or wilderness design, as a matter of fact, which I didn't expect.
Yeah.
And then there's a very long letter that he writes to a reviewer. It's like 7 pages long to someone named Mitchison, answering questions about the mythology. And boy, that looks a heck of a lot like a lot of emails that I either write or receive, actually, about answering questions like that became part of the appendix to the Cimmerillion, if I recall correctly. So really interesting.
Yeah.
And I think there was a detail about the Morgan Library here that you wanted to share with us that I didn't know about before we came here.
Was it about the Potter Lionesses?
Yeah. So behind us, the Morgan Library is currently under reconstruction, and just behind us, there's a whole lot of scaffolding and tarps. And so what's hidden under the tarps here?
So under the tarps over there, so the 36th Street entrance of the Morgan Library has 2 lionesses that were done by a sculptor named Edward Potter, and he's also he's not known really, in the art world, but he's very famous because he's also done the lions at the New York Public Library, Fortitude and Patience.
What I heard just earlier today. I didn't know that before today.
Yeah, and Fortitude and Patience were the names given to the lions by Mayor LaGuardia during the Depression, because he used to sign off his broadcast to the city with the fact that people should have patience and fortitude during the Depression. So anyway, unfortunately, the lionesses are like really beautiful sculptures, and they can't they're under a crate right now with a bunch of scaffolding on top.
But beautiful place here at the Morgan Library in New York City. And if they have another exhibit here, maybe try to not do it in the last week like we're doing because it's super busy and not the most comfortable thing we've ever been at. But really glad we went to it. Any other final thoughts before we sign off?
No. I guess it makes me want to read The Hobbit again. Which is a book that I enjoyed thoroughly when I was in high school.
I think for both of us, The Hobbit's really our favorite Tolkien work. It really is truly delightful.
Yeah, and you can see that probably the Hobbit was more something, because it was part of stories that he would tell his children, in the evening when they were very young, and then Lord of the Rings was written later on, and a lot of it was written when his children were grown up. And I think you can kind of see that it's lost a little bit of that.
Well, I think this kind of goes to what you were just saying about being loose. The Hobbit has a looseness to it,
right?
And I think for both of us, we've encountered a piece of art that meant so much to us that we overworked it. Right. And so clearly he worked very, very hard in Lord of the Rings. But The Hobbit has this looseness, and in fact, there's a letter here about how he's not even that much of a fan of The Hobbit. It's to a friend. It's not a serious enough work for Tolkien himself to completely fully respect, which is kind of an interesting observation.
Right.
So it's kind of interesting that work that he wasn't the thing that he cared about the most had a looseness to it that actually possibly for some of us makes it the most successful work.
Right. Well, and and interestingly enough, so now we're talking about this, is that as artists sometimes we're going to be remembered with something that we consider not our best work, but everybody else just remembers us for that. So that's kind of an interesting little tidbit about the artist's life. That was interesting for me. That letter to his colleague at Oxford, basically poo-pooing the Hobbit a little bit, which was part of this like really wonderful little display of watercolors, and he's kind of like, it wasn't so good, and it's like, well, I think that's your best work, buddy.
Yeah. So it's an interesting thing to grapple with as an artist. So the thing that you think is your best work will sometimes go totally ignored, right? And some little tidbit that you threw off is the thing that everybody really ignores about it.
Right. Yeah. So that's the way of it is.
Yeah.
The way of the artist life.
All right. So there's a little bit of a little art talk on Wandering DMs, and you can see more of Isabelle's work if you go online to isabellegarbani.net. IsabelleGarbani.com. You can see more of Isabelle's work, and also look for a Book of Spells and Deck of Spells, which feature more of her artwork, which is wonderful. And we'll be looking for more interesting exhibits here in New York City and around the world, and we'll talk to you next time.
Bye.